The music won't come on.
It's okay. I need to. There.
Just talk.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to IBSI's weekly forum on Africa, Israel, and Black America. I'm your host, Joshua Washington, the executive director of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. We usually have a theme song. We have some technical difficulties, but when you do hear the theme song, it is called The First 7 Miles. It's a beautiful song by Randy Sandoli. You can check him out on all streaming platforms. He has an album called Simka, where you can find that song and others. And you can book him for events. Randy Sandoli. Check him out. Check out that album. Visit our website, ibsi.org. Go to ibsi.org. If this is your first time watching this, checking us out, you can visit our website and see what we're all about, why we do what we do, in the purpose for IBSI. You can also join us on Substack. Go to ibsi.substack.com and subscribe to our newsletter, Africa Israel Weekly. That also, we write a lot of articles. We have podcast episodes, and you can learn more about us through our content on there as well. And if you like the work we do, you can become a paid subscriber. Also, if you do know IBSI and you are familiar with our work and you appreciate it, you can become a legacy builder. Boom. A legacy builder is someone who gives monthly to IBSI, someone who, it can be something small. We've had people start from $15, $20 a month, something like a subscription plan to one of your streaming services. And over time, they were able to do more. So now we have legacy builders who give closer to $100 a month. It really is something that is catered to you and your financial needs and situation. And we really appreciate it. So go to ibsi.org/donate, and you can see the ways you can give. You can become a legacy builder right now. And we would greatly appreciate it at IBSI, especially in all the work that we are doing. The demand for IBSI has grown quite a bit, and we need your help in order to meet those needs that are coming in more and more. Also, lastly, visit our merch store. Go to ibsi.org and visit our merch store. You'll see t-shirts like the one I'm wearing, other t-shirts. We have journals, we have jewelry, we have things that you can get and wear or hang up in your house, different mementos like that. So if you want to, go to ibsi.org and you can support IBSI in that way as well. We have mugs. I mean, just check it out, you guys. We have a lot of things there, and your purchases help us do the work that we do. So check that out. As far as announcements go, we go to our events page, go to ibsi.org/dates, and you will see our upcoming events, ladies and gentlemen. We have a few more things coming up at the end of this year. Some stuff we haven't posted about yet because we're working out some of the logistics, and we have some exciting stuff already cooking for the beginning of next year as well. So we want you all to be able to know about it. If we'll be in your area, we'd love to see you, and we'd love to do something with you as well. So ibsi.org/dates. All right. Now, we have a few things to get into today. First of all, last week I did say that joining me would be the Honorable Reverend Kenneth Meshoe. He'll be joining us next week. He also happens to be my father-in-law. He is visiting us for a little bit, and there's still just jet lag stuff. I mean, coming from South Africa and all that, and so he wasn't feeling all the way up to it. But he'll join us next week. And normally you'll see, I usually have my lovely co-host Olga Meshoe Washington. She's not with me this week, but she'll also join next week as well. So it's just me today. I hope that's okay with you. I hope that's cool. We're still going to get into some stuff, and there's some pressing things that we need to talk about today. So buckle your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, and please feel free to comment questions or comments or anything if you're watching this on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, or X, I should say, or any other platform. If you're on YouTube, feel free to comment. I'll see them here. If there are questions, I'll answer them as best as I can, and we'll keep this moving as much as we possibly can. All right. So make sure you do that, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tag your friends, tag your neighbors, tell them to come and check out our forum on today. All right. First things first, let's talk about England, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about England. There have been some very interesting developments, and it took a little bit of time to sort through all of what was going on because we were seeing it from different angles. So my first uh, introduction into what's going on in England, which I'll share with you in just a moment, was just a post on Facebook from a friend of mine. And Brooke, if you're watching this, it was actually your post. Just said, is anyone, the question was just something about what's going on in England right now. And I said, what's going on in England right now? She said, oh, do you wonder why none of the mainstream news over here is reporting on what's going on in England? So I said, what? And so I looked it up, and lo and behold, there's some stuff happening. And the mainstream news eventually reported on it, but in a very devious way, which we'll talk about now. And it furthers the point that I've been bringing up quite a bit when it comes to, I talked about my article, Psychological Compromise, talked about my article in Africa Israel Weekly, which was about terrorism that Israel's fighting, but is also right here on our front doorstep. And all that stuff is if we can look to our neighbors in Europe, we can see that stuff is has come to a head. And it's only a matter of time before something like that and worse happens here in the States. So what happened a few days ago, a 17-year-old boy by the name of Axel Ruda Cubana, he stabbed and killed 3 young girls who were it was like a Taylor Swift themed dance party, okay, or dance class. Stabbed and killed 3 girls, and he was also arrested both for that and for the attempted murder of 10 other people, including 2 of the teachers that were there in that area. And so that's what happened, right? So this 17-year-old boy stabs and kills 3 young girls, okay? And the girls, their ages were 9, 7, and 6. Alice Aguar, Elise Stancombe, and BB King. 9, 7, and 6. 3 young girls. So when I tuned into what was going on in England, I just saw all the protesting. I saw some sources and some people showing the huge group of Muslims protesting and chanting all this stuff in Arabic. And then I saw other sources of people showing the blatant Jew hatred during the protests from the far left and the far right. Okay. You had the far left people saying Zionists are the problem, and the Zionists orchestrated this, and they're trying to keep us down, and they're controlling the media. And then you had the far right people who were interviewed saying, the Jews, same thing. They just said Jews instead of Zionists, right? Jews are manipulating things, all that stuff. So I'm watching this saying, what the heck is actually going on? Because there's a lot of stuff going on. I didn't even find out about the murder of the 3 girls until I had to dig a little bit, you guys, because this is the deviousness of the media. The actual murder of the 3 girls was not prominent. And one of the things that I noticed in a lot of the titles, a lot of the headlines of reporting on it, the emphasis of the headlines were the protests and the riots, right? And they only focused on the far right people, right? So far right protests ensue, these far right anti-Muslim protests, far right people, this far right groups, far right, and then usually in the headline, but it'll say like, after a clash, resulting in 3 dead. Okay, So I was reading this going, okay, what was the clash? What was the clash? So the first thing that I thought before I knew about the story of the 3 girls that were murdered, when I think clash, I'm thinking, there are two rival groups, right? Maybe there's some gangs, maybe it was two guys who were just going at it, and maybe it was two groups of people who are fighting and 3 people were dead, right? That's what when I think clash, I'm thinking we are clashing with each other. It takes two people to clash, right? If I'm clashing with my wife, that means my wife's also clashing with me. If I'm clashing with my sister, we're not agreeing with each other. It's not just if it's only one person clashing, then that's just the one person being disagreeable. It's not a clash. A clash is when two people are going at each other, right? So I saw the word clash and I thought, okay, something must have jumped off. So I dig into the article and finally see murder of 3 girls. Okay, time out. Who murdered these 3 girls? So then I had to find some other articles who actually named the guy who murdered 3 girls. I said, okay. And then it says, yeah, anti-Muslim sentiments, and Muslims are afraid that their mosques are going to be attacked, and so they're on the streets. Oh, time out, time out, time out, time out. Why? Right? Can you just tell me what's going on? Because it's so if being in the Israel advocacy space, there's or any kind of activism space, if you're really digging for the truth, you start to get attuned to media BS, right? Not just bias, intentional BS from the media. So I didn't know what was going on, but I knew that they were hiding something from me. It's like, my goodness, I just want to know what happened. So first, you wouldn't even mention the fact that the 3 girls, most of the articles didn't even name the 3 girls. I had to search a few different sources before I found the names. They weren't even the reports had moved way beyond that already. They were just murdered, and they went, yeah, some stuff happened and some people were killed, but a lot of these anti-Muslim people out here, they're trying to get Muslims, and oh my, watch out, Islamophobia. I went, okay, who? I'm sorry, what happened? So it was a clash and people were killed. What happened with that? Oh, I mean, just some stuff happened, but people are, they're out to get the Muslims. You got these Islamophobics and these anti-immigrant people out here. Just they're just racist and they hate. And you guys, for those who have a brain, that trope is so played out because yeah, there were far left and far right groups in the march. There were a lot of just regular Londoners. I saw a bunch of videos. People will post stuff, and that's the power of social media now. Is that people will just post things from their phones. I saw white Londoners. I saw black Londoners. I saw brown Londoners who were protesting what was going on, because this is not the only time that a Muslim, an Islamist in the UK, we're not even talking about the rest of Europe at this point, I'm just talking about the UK, committed a violent act against someone. Stabbings, because they don't have guns there, right? Stabbings, bombings, right? Like, most of those attackers are Muslim, and they're motivated by, it's like religiously motivated, right? It's the same mindset. It's the same mindset in the U.S. It's the same mindset of the Boston Marathon bombers, the same mindset as 9/11, same mindset right now with Hamas. It's the same ideology. And one of the ways that you can tell, and this is something that no one really wants to talk about, and this is the elephant in the room. Okay, people like to argue that most people who practice Islam are peaceful, meaning physically they don't harm other people and they don't do that type of harm in the name of their God, right? Okay. So physically, you're right. It was something like 2/3 a long time ago. I don't know if it's still the same now. The problem is, other polls were done that said that actually, but a large majority of them, or a larger minority of them, support, at least publicly support, actively support the jihad that is waged on people, right? And one of the things that's very obvious about it is, and we've seen this before, is it's the messaging. This is what I call this the 9/11 tactic, right? So this is what the 9/11 tactic is. Someone belonging to a particular group of people commits a tragedy against a bunch of people, right? So September 11, 2001, the Twin Towers were crashed into by planes that were flown by Islamists. They collapsed, right? And the people belonging to that group, the people, and I'm not talking about people on the ground, I'm talking about people like organizations, right? CARE, the Council of Arab Islamic Relations, right? People who are in these positions of power, they'll come out with messaging that basically says, let's not pin this on all of us because most of us are peaceful people, which is good messaging. Yes, most that okay. If you're trying to promote peace, then you say that. The only problem is there's an omission there. It's an intentional omission. There is no such messaging that says we condemn in the strongest of terms what happened. We condemn the person who did it, the persons who were involved. We condemn it. That is not us. We do not stand by it. They do not speak for us. We are, whether you're in America or Europe, we are American and this is our country and we stand with you in this devastating period. And our hearts go out to those whose lives were lost, to the family members, to people who are bereaved and mourning and in grief and all those things. We stand with you. There's none of that. There's none of that, right? There's none of that. And we hope that that there's not a painting of a broad brush because we stand with you. No. It's we go straight to, hold on, you guys. Let's not be afraid of Muslims now. Okay, can you at least tell me that you feel for me, that right? What about these three girls? What about their parents who are devastated? You lost your 9-year-old, your 7-year-old, and your 6-year-old. Not even by some tragedy. Someone just stabbed them to death. And the media and everyone else has moved past your pain already and went straight to, let's not be Islamophobic. Okay, guys, but that is intentional, and that is what we've been conditioned uh, to acquiesce to. So after 9/11, 6 days after 9/11, President George Bush was at the Islamic Center in D.C. saying Islam is a religion of peace, among other things. Who was standing right behind him? The head of CARE, Nihad Awad. The head of CARE was right behind him while he was making the speech. The same head of CARE, I said this before, who a few months ago, just a few weeks after October 7th, what happened in Israel, he celebrated it. He said it was a good thing. He liked it. He said it was a victory. He thought it was great. He thought it was great that Hamas slaughtered and raped and murdered a bunch of Israelis on October 7th. He thought it was great. This is an intentional messaging. So what's happening now is that the media is highlighting the yahoos in the group, and then they're saying all of these people out here who are protesting this are far right, racist, anti-immigrant Islamophobes. And they will never tell you about the ones who, heck, some of the people, I guarantee you, some of the people who are protesting are immigrants themselves, right? And like, we don't talk about that like here in America. There are a lot of legal immigrants here who are against illegal immigration for the very personal reason of, I went through this process. It took me a long time and I had to fill out all these forms, jump through all these hoops, and you just hop over the fence and now you get free healthcare. Like, what the heck is going on? That same thing. Like, they're not just these people are not, they're majority not these racist, why I hate Muslims people. They're saying, and now the controversy with this is that people are saying, no, Axel's not an immigrant, he was born there, which is fine. It's fine. But the thing is, what they're protesting is radical Islam and the lack of urgency and the lack of response from who are supposed to be their leaders, who is supposed to be an honest media, right? It's not being reported on. The death of the three girls has been looked over. The grieving family has been ignored, and we've moved straight to, we have to protect our Muslim brothers and sisters. That's evil. That's evil masquerading as compassionate. There's nothing compassionate about ignoring the death of someone's child so you can hop over to your agenda. There's nothing compassionate about that, but that's the cloak it wraps itself in. And we have been conditioned to fall in line with that. So what's happening is exactly that. So good people are rising up and saying, we're tired of this. We're tired of this. These girls' bodies aren't even cold, and you're shoving this down our throat and preaching to us about not being Islamophobic. Can you at least show some sympathy and empathy for the families who've lost these children? Can you at least do that? And ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when we stray away from the truth. And when I say we now, I'm talking about us in the pro-Israel space. This is what happens when we acquiesce to certain things because the truth is just too inconvenient at the moment. So we say, "Oh, you know what? Let's it's okay." There are people who are okay with pairing up anti-Semitism with Islamophobia every time. You notice that whether it's politicians or big public figures, if they say I stand against anti-Semitism, they immediately go and all forms of hatred. Or they say I stand against anti-Semitism and Islamophobia and all forms of hatred. You're like, okay, hold up, time out. When you okay, okay, let's go by your rules for a second. Remember when you guys didn't like all lives matter? Okay, so you're all lives mattering Jew hatred right now. Why can't you just say I stand against the hatred of Jews? Why do you have to always say and Muslims and everyone, everybody? Because we've been conditioned to have a hierarchy, a pecking order of people to care about. So much so that we feel uncomfortable just saying, "Hey, my Jewish brothers." I do this all the time. It's my full-time thing, right? Even in music, there's activism in my music. And there are times even at like my concerts and shows where sometimes parts of the concert I'll say, "You know what? I just want to dedicate this next song to my Israeli brothers and sisters, my Jewish brothers who are really going through it. I know that October 7th hasn't ended for you and there's a lot going on." There are times when there's a little bit of awkwardness that I feel in saying it. And I go, "You know what? No, Joshua, say it." Because the environment is such that the room tenses up a little bit. Okay, why is it okay when I say, "Hey, you know what? To all my Palestinian people out there, free Palestine." Yeah, because that's the accepted social norm. We that's racism, that's classism, that's all that stuff. There should not be a pecking order of types of or ethnic groups or religious groups of people that you care about and not care about. You can't do that. We have to push back against that we cannot say, "Oh, that's fine. We can deal with that for now." No, we can't. We cannot. Because right now it's coming back to bite us in the butt. So what's happening now is there's a protesting of that. And it's not just that, but it's people are fed up with these Islamic attacks that have been happening in Europe, just like it's been happening everywhere. But that coupled with a complete looking away from the media, or not from their leaders even, right? There have been these protests in London since October 7th. Some of them have gotten violent, where police officers have either done nothing or they've actually escorted and forced out the pro-Israel protests, right? So you allow these free Palestine, sometimes pro-Hamas, Hezbollah flag waving people to run rampant in your streets of Britain and stuff. But then the pro-Israel ones with the Israeli flag, you escort out. You tell them, "You can't be here. You have to go." I've seen videos. People are like, "Well, what about them?" "Oh, we can't do anything about them." Why can't you do anything about them? So people are tired. They're tired of it. And we're going to see more and more of these people rising up and saying, "Look, we're we're tired of this going on and being gaslit." Oops, sorry, excuse me. We're tired of this going on and being gaslit into thinking that we're the crazy ones. No, we're not. We're not crazy. So that's what's happening. We're going to continue to follow the events unfolding in England because of that, and our hearts do go out to the families who are affected. Because there wasn't just the 3 girls killed. It was, first of all, it started off with 2, and then one of them she succumbed to the wounds and she died, and there are others who were injured. So praying for a speedy recovery for those people, and also just mentally as well, because it's a very traumatic event to be in a situation like that where you don't know if you're going to lose your life or not, and seeing people next to you get stabbed. I mean, it's a lot, and it's being completely overlooked. Now, what I wanted to talk about with Reverend Meshoe, which we will next week, in that same vein, we want to talk about the infiltration of radical Islamists in South Africa, and it's something that I talk with Olga, who also happens to be my wife, on a fairly regular basis. How there are certain provinces in South Africa where, even though countrywide, Muslims make up about 2% of the population. There are whole areas where the rules the laws of the land and the rules cater to the smallest minority and not to the large majority of people, right? There are things that, and so we're going to talk about that. We're also talking about how, again, we showed a video last week, 2 weeks ago. There are people protesting. I think this was in New York a couple weeks ago, and one of the signs that was graffitied on a building said that Hamas is coming, and I reposted. I said, no, it's not. Hamas is here. I mean, they're not lying when they say that. And we talked about it's been documented since the 80s that we have terror cells, Hezbollah specifically, but others as well, in all different parts of the world. In Latin America, Hezbollah has been in Mexico since the 80s. And so another elephant in the room when we're talking about illegal immigration is that not everyone illegally immigrating is just a Mexican person trying to make a better life for themselves. Some of these people are Hezbollah agents, Hezbollah terrorists, informants crossing the border, and the U.S. is aware of this. There are cells around America. And one of the things that I remember talking to Reverend Meshoe about was that same type of thing in South Africa. And he said, yeah, no, they're waiting for their orders. They're waiting for the signal. And every once in a while, they'll show their ugly heads here and there for different things, but they're waiting, right, to strike. It's a real thing. And if you think I'm fear mongering, take a look at Africa, take a look at Sudan, take a look at Libya, Nigeria, where it's, let's just say in terms of where they are and the Islamist takeover, they're a few years ahead of us. There's full-blown slavery and the slave trade happening in Mauritania and Algeria. And this is what's happening. And this is what the radicals are trying to bring to the West. So again, if you think it's fear mongering and all that stuff, save this video and pull it up in a little while. I'm telling you, it's not. And we have the receipts, so you can check out our last few articles actually in Africa Israel Weekly. If you go to our Substack, you can read about some of these things and the documented evidence of these cells that I was sharing with you all about. It's not a joke. It's a real thing. All right. So now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just now tuning in, this is IBSI's weekly forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. I'm your host, Joshua Washington. I'm the executive director of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. It's good to have you here. We are live everywhere: Instagram, Facebook. We're on X. We're on YouTube. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Rumble, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're watching us from any of those platforms, thank you. Share this with your friends. Tell them to tune in. Right now, I'm going to take a short break and share with you a recap of our CEO and founder, Pastor Jimmy Saudi Washington, his latest episode of Truth to Power Live. So check out this ad, ladies and gentlemen, and make sure you subscribe to it. Here we go.
This is Bishop Patrick Wooden in Raleigh, North Carolina. He is talking about how the federal government came to him and basically threatened him because his politics are wrong.
I am high profile, and the IRS, the government, watches me. They came to see me, sent agents to see me, and we met in the suite. I had to get an attorney. They were quite belligerent in their address of yours truly. So I finally asked them, what did I say that was so wrong? And the brother who was on the team yelled out to me with a high voice, you said Kamala Harris is bad for black people, and you can't say that. I said, is that what this is all about? I said, well, what if I told the truth? You still can't say it. They said, we are here to revoke your nonprofit status, and we want to go back and look at every offering the church raised from the day you made that statement up until this current time and tax you for that too. I want to say to my friends in ministry on the other side, you got it made. Because on the other side, you can invite the politicians you like to your church.
B-roll of Biden in someone's church.
And I saw one the other day, the man invited the person he wanted and preached him.
Biden is coming back.
Church in Philadelphia.
He's a comeback kid. He's a fighter. He's a champion.
You can say anything you want on the other side, and you don't get a visit.
For Kamala Harris.
You don't get
with
harassed.
churches.
You don't get anything.
Kamala Harris at another church preaching. I want you to consider what would happen, for example, for all of us pro-Israel folk on the left and right side of the aisle, if it then became frowned upon by a regime in power for a pastor to stand before the people in the pulpit and talking about our standing with Israel and the Jewish people. What if the federal government decides that's no longer allowed? Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. That means if you think it's conspiracy that it's not already happening with other issues, then you're not dealing in reality.
Truth to Power Live with Jimmy Sunny Washington.
So that was Truth to Power Live with Dumisani Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, it's interesting because it brought up another point as well. First of all, you can go to TTP Live. I always get the dot wrong. ttplive.com. ttplive.com, ladies and gentlemen. And subscribe to it. Check out. It's every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. You can check it out, listen to it. They're very full episodes, lots of stuff that our CEO covers, and it's really great. So guys, please go to ttplive.com. Subscribe. This concept is very interesting because you have two groups of, in my mind right now, I'm categorizing it into two groups of deniers, right? Two groups of people who don't want to see or can't see what's going on. You have those who really have been sufficiently compromised psychologically. And I like using that term better than brainwashed. They've sufficiently been compromised, right? They have been beaten into submission mentally long enough to, they will censor themselves. The government doesn't have to worry about them because they have in their brains a list of things that they know they can and can't say. And so they know, they're the ones who will make all this noise about something until they find out that, oh, the perpetrator was this color and the victim was that color. Oops, sorry. Can't say anything because of the white power structure, right? Those are the people that you don't have to worry about them. But then you have those people who see what's going on and they actually might agree that it's harsh, but they can't see past their own hatred. So because, let's say, for instance, they hate Christians, they'll say, good, those Christians need to be taxed and churches need to be, and they can't just be doing that. And you go, okay, all right. Now, here's the thing. I get that you don't like Christians. I really do. But does it ever occur to you that the fact that the government feels like they can come to a pastor's church and tell him, you can't preach this or we're taking your nonprofit status away, does it ever occur to you that if the government has that power, then the government will have that power? Meaning if someone else is in power who doesn't believe like the last president believed or who doesn't have the same proclivities as the last administration, that they could do it to you? Can we look past our own bitterness for 2 seconds and say, you know what? I may not like this group of people, but it's not fair. And it's actually a scary precedent that's being set that's happening to them. Right? Yeah, there's so many applications that can be made to that. But that's something that really needs to be dealt with, that we need to have the maturity to look at something, and even if the person that it's happening to is someone that we don't like, to say, you know what, but it's not right that it's happening to that person, period. And I don't want that happening to me. So little quick story. So I drive Uber. I try to drive as much as I can when we're not doing this. And I have some lately, like sometimes I'll have an Uber playlist that's just my favorite old school tunes with some of the more recent stuff, and got a long playlist of that. I don't like doing the radio. I like to kind of control what I listen to. And but lately I've been playing from my old school gospel music playlist. I've just been back into that again, like heavy, all the Hawkins, Walter Hawkins, Tremaine Hawkins, Andre Crouch, and then a little bit more modern, but still old school, the Winans and all that stuff, right? And so had some pretty cool conversations these past few days with some passengers who were just talking about, how gospel back then was just the quality of the writing and everything was just much better than it is now and all that stuff. And I remember, so I had a passenger who hopped into the car and he was listening to music, and we were talking for a little bit. And this passenger, we were talking about music, and I've had a few of these actually the past few days. So this passenger happened to be a pastor, and as we were talking, he found out that I do music, and he said, "Oh, are you a music minister? Oh, I'd love to have you, do something in my church." Sure. So this happened quite a bit that day. I took his card and looked him up, and I mean, just like the example that was given in the Truth to Power Live clip. I mean, Democrat as Democrat can be, right? Not just, kind of left leaning, but I mean, like, part of it, we do this, we're against this politician and that politician, da 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 da. And I was like, again, so now watching that clip, I go, and Bishop, sorry, the bishop in the clip said, "You pastors on the other side, you got it made." No, it is. I mean, I've seen Bishop Wooten. Yeah, Bishop Wooten. He said, "You pastors on the end, you guys have it made," and that's absolutely true. I've been to churches for other reasons, right? Going visiting with my friends, whatever, where pastors were very much just, we don't like Republicans, we don't like Trump, and everyone, yeah, that's right, get them, yeah, yeah. And then people, what they do is they make exceptions because they think, well, this this person's a really, really bad person, so there we can kind of blur the lines here for that, right? No, we can't. That's the whole point. Like, so if you're saying it's okay for a pastor to, from the pulpit, bash Trump, okay, that's his right to do that. But then you can't be giddy and happy and jumping up and down when a pastor gets punished for bashing Biden, Kamala, right? It's politics is politics. If you don't think a pastor should bring politics into the pulpit, then that means they shouldn't bring politics in the pulpit. If you think that it's okay, which I'm one of those people that thinks that it's, how can you be a pastor and not? The Bible is a political book. It's very political. You're supposed to be in the issues of the day, right? But if you're someone who doesn't believe that, then you need to be consistent and say, okay, no, yes, I might agree with what he's saying, from the pulpit, but he shouldn't be saying that. Don't jump up and down and clap and then get even happier when he gets punished for saying Kamala's bad for black people. Do you see how that's, if the government can cross those lines, we have to have the maturity to say, okay, even though I agree with, or even though I don't like this person for whom this line was crossed, this line was still crossed and that's wrong. And I'm going to speak out about it. Not, yeah, that's right, it's what they get. Anyway, so there's been a lot of stuff going on where now, to be honest with you, now that it's happening to, let's say, the pro-Israel groups, now it's a big issue. But I'm like, some of these things were happening to Christian groups for a while. Some of these things were happening to conservative groups for a while. Some of these were happening to pro-life groups for a while. And now that it's an issue that's happening in this space now, and the thing is, the advocacy usually is not even to stop doing that completely. It's, please don't pick on us. No. It's not please don't pick on us. It's, you don't have the right to step over your boundaries in this way, period. Right? Just like the racial stuff. Like, you don't see, it wasn't okay for Black Lives Matter to bash white people, but a lot of people were okay with that. Even white people, even a lot of white people let it happen. And then when they started coming for Jews, and when they started coming for Israel, and when certain leaders were seen with ties to Farrakhan, then we started making noise. Yeah, it's too late. It's too little too late at that point, because we've given them a solemn amen by saying, you know what? That's right. Straight white men are the enemy of the day. And then stuff like straight black men are the white people of black people. And all this. So these stupid hierarchies that everyone was like, yeah, okay, I'll let that slide, until it came for them. Then you went, whoa, not me. And then that's when you get some of the arguments of, I stood by you guys when they were bashing white people. See, that's the problem. You said, go ahead and put up a middle finger to white people. I'm going to stand behind you and support you. You shouldn't have. That's the point. So then they turn around and give you the middle finger and you go, oh, me? Don't do that to me. He's like, no, why are you so special? Why are you so special? Anyway, so get off that high horse. Get off that, what do you call it? Soapbox for a second. I want to talk to you about something real quick. This just happened, and we posted about it a little earlier. We've known this already, and this is the diabolical nature of the media. This was already suspected, and then it was shot down. It got to a point where when I searched about it, and you know that the media, man, it's so dastardly how algorithms work. So they'll flood the algorithms with different articles. This is what I mean. So early on after October 7th, a couple of things were found out. There was a photographer, international photographer that was based in Gaza that CNN was working with. Turned out that photographer was working for Hamas and actually helped Hamas on October 7th. So when CNN published something, oh, we didn't know, we're distancing ourselves. Okay, fine, you didn't know. You should know. Your whole job is news, right? Your whole job is investigating and telling people. So you didn't know. But anyway, that's a different thing. Okay, so there's that. And then reports came out that it's possible that employees of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA, are Hamas agents and also participated in October 7th. They also slaughtered Jews. They also helped in kidnapping the Israeli hostages that still aren't back, and raping and all that stuff, right? And so that came out. And then maybe about a week later, I noticed that when I tried to search for it again, because I was writing an article, there were tons of articles basically saying it's not true, it's alleged, it's there's no proof, there's no evidence. These far right far right is just a new slur. These far right pro-Israel groups are just trying to slander, and obfuscate the fact that Israel's what's the word is just bombarding Gaza with rockets and da-da-da. So they were just for pages and pages, the articles were saying it's not true. So all of a sudden it's flooded with it's not true. Now, months later, right? We're in August now. So we're 10 months in. In 2 days, it'll be 10 months since October 7th. Now, the United Nations, so this oversight committee said, well, actually, there was at least 15 employees that may have been, collaborating with Hamas on October 7th. So there's maybe 15, maybe more. But it's okay. We fired them. Okay, so first of all, so the Office of Internal Oversight Services, I'm sorry, I said 15, 19 armed employees took part in October's amendment. Evidence to say that 9 may have done so. So 19. Okay. Actually, guys, yeah, I guess there might have been maybe 19 people who worked for UNRWA who participated on October 7th. If you read the article later on, it says, we got rid of them, we fired them. Oh, great. So you fired the murderers. So now they can just be one of my friends commented. So now they're just independent agents? Thank you. Thanks for firing them. Now they're just on the loose by. So well, how about throwing them in prison? How about doing an investigation? See that thing you were doing with Bishop Wooten about him saying Kamala Harris is bad for black people, and then you want to investigate him and take away his nonprofits? Why don't you take that energy and audit UNRWA? Why don't you audit all the UN and actually do some investigating into what the hell is going on in the UN that 19 employees, 19 are suspected to be working with Hamas and are suspected to have done October 7th with Hamas. 19 employees in UNRWA may have murdered a bunch of Israelis, helped burn, rape, kidnap. What in the heck? And we just, so we fired them and moving on. This is the evil that we cannot let up on. We cannot take our finger off of this pulse, you guys. In 2006, there's an old video that we like to share. We used to share a lot. I mean, it's a little bit dated, but it's still very, very, very relevant. And I think the people who did the video, it'll come to me in just a second. Um, yeah, I can't remember the organization, but I will, when I remember it, I will say it. But the video is called "Who Else Is Being Injured by the Vilification of Israel?" Okay, and it's about the damage that is done to Israel's reputation by false claims. And it talks about how when there are certain false claims that are made against Israel, which the group is the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs, an old video. There are accusations against Israel. It damages Israel's reputation. And then later on, it turns out that these things aren't true. So it lists some examples. And one of the examples it lists, it shows the reaction of the late Secretary General Kofi Annan, UN Secretary General. And when Secretary General Kofi Annan would find out about these things about Israel, he would speak on it. These are atrocities. This is horrible. This is terrible. Right? He was reacting the way any human being would react. If Israel was really doing the things that it was accused of in the UN, those would be atrocities. So he was calling him out because he thought these things were true. But this man, being a man with the brain, an actual thinking man, he started to notice a pattern. And then he started to notice that the UN Human Rights Council seemed to be very, very narrowly focused on Israel, to the point where he noticed no other country was getting this kind of attention. And so then in November 2006, he publicly says this about the UN Human Rights Council. He says, since the beginning of their work, the UN Human Rights Council's work, they have almost entirely focused on Israel. And there are other crisis situations like Sudan where they have not been able to say a word. This is what he said. I want to take it a step further and say, not only have countries like Sudan been ignored, and you guys, for those of you who've been following us for all this time, we've done lots of reports on Sudan. We even had our good friend Simon Dang of the African Jewish Alliance, who we are members of as well. He was a former slave. He was stolen and taken as a slave at 9 years old for about 2 years before he was freed. Before he was freed in a covert way. But yes, he has seen it up close and personal. Not only has Sudan been ignored, it's not just an ignoring of Sudan. When you understand that when it comes to the voting bloc, or the UN, the people, the bodies who vote in the UN, when you understand that there is a voting bloc of communist regimes and Islamic regimes that come together to form a massive voting bloc to vote against Israel in the US, you understand that it's not just an ignoring of Sudan. It's not just an ignoring of Libya. It is an active cover-up, because some of those countries in the Islamic voting bloc are responsible for the slave trade. So not only are they bashing Israel, for a lot of them, it's not even necessarily a personal vendetta against Israel. It is a projecting on, it's using Jews as a scapegoat so that they can do their dirt, right? What's the best way to get people to turn away from you to what you're doing? You accuse someone else of doing exactly what you're doing. So all the things that Israel's been accused of at the UN, those countries are also doing it. They're not also, those countries are actually doing it to their own people, but they need the world to look at Israel. So they focus on Israel. So Kofi Annan, I don't know if he was a Zionist. I don't know. Like I said, when these reports were first coming out, he believed them, and he made some very strong statements against Israel because he thought they were true. Kofi Annan, who really, from my vantage point, was there to do the work. When he realized the pattern, he said, hold on a second, you guys. Why is there so much attention on this one country over here? And first of all, by the way, a lot of stuff you said haven't even been true, but we know what's happening in Darfur. Right? We know what's happening in Libya. We know what's happening to the Igbo in Nigeria. Like, how come we're not speaking on that? You guys are representatives of some of these countries. Why aren't you talking about that? Why, when you come in here, you say we have a new resolution against Israel? Really? You don't have a resolution against China? who sits on the UN Security Council now, or Human Rights Council. You don't have that for Iran. You don't have a resolution for Russia. You don't have a resolution for Libya, for Nigeria, for only Israel. So you have another resolution against Israel. Like, I'm starting to think that maybe you just don't like Israel. And it's hard to know whether or not you're telling the truth, because you seem to be like intentionally avoiding atrocities happening in other countries. So just Uganda's just great, a picture of hell, right? So yeah, there's nothing going on. We don't have anything to say about what's going on in maybe South Africa. Maybe we got nothing to say about what's going on. Maybe in, like I said, with the Christians in China, or hey, the Uyghurs, right? Nope, nope. Israel. Okay, that's interesting. So not only are countries like Sudan ignored, they're being ravaged by Islamists, right? And those are the same Islamists that attack Israel. Those are the same Islamists. They're the same ones who influenced this young boy, the 17-year-old boy, who, look, 17, you're old enough to understand what's going on around the world, but it wasn't just a random act, right? He got that from somewhere. And the more that we get afraid to say things like that, the more evil advances. That's really what it is. If we allow our fear of being called Islamophobes to shut us up, we are now a part of the advancing of radical Islam. That's really what it is, right? It's not just me trying to find a topic to bang my gavel on. And no, it's look at trust the evidence of your eyes. Look at what's going on. Look what's happening. We're going to have more events, especially in 2025, with not just Simon Dang, but there are a whole host of others. We were in DC a few weeks ago. I shared this for the very first ever African Jewish Alliance Summit. And this is the first time that we got to meet most of our team in person. We had Zoom meetings for weeks and weeks. And we've only met Simon Dang in person a couple of times. Everyone else was just Zoom. So we finally all got together. And I didn't know the background of every single person. I just knew maybe what country they were from. Some of our partners are former slaves who are Muslim. We had a Sudanese man who's a good friend of Simon Dang's, our friend Daoud. He's a Muslim from Sudan who was enslaved. Right? We have and that's the thing, in Mauritania, the main the vast majority of slaves in Mauritania are Muslim women, are Black Muslim women. So even in terms of ideology and religion, still the Black Africans are put in chains, even if they do subscribe to Islam. There are things going on that we have to speak out against, you guys. We have to shed our fear of speaking the truth. We can't let this paralyze us. What's happening in England is not a bunch of far right people just trying to, murder brown people. It's not. And I guarantee you, I don't care how many news sources say it is. I don't care what BBC says. I don't care what the other stations out there or over here, CNN, MSNBC, Fox. It's not that. It's not. There are some far right wackadoos out there. Yes. That's not the majority of what's going on. These are people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And if we don't say anything, if we can't also add our voice to that, I'm telling you guys, worse things are coming to Europe and worse things are coming to the US. I said this before and I'll say it again. With all this stuff that's been going on, and like I said, you can go to ibsi.substack.com and check out an article that's entitled "Terrorism in Israel and at Our Front Door." I think that's what it's called. And it's not rocket science, right? The illegal immigration, all that stuff that's happening right now, we are due for another massive attack. It's 1 + 1 is 2, you guys. There are people in our country, we can't identify them. We don't know where they're from. There are people from Gaza who live here now, like illegally, I'm saying. it's not. This doesn't bode well for us. This doesn't bode well for us. So we need to be ready. We need to be ready. All right. So, not to end on that note, but I do want to say thank you for coming. Again, this is IBSI's weekly forum on Africa, Israel, and Black America. Listen, you guys, if you're watching this, become a legacy builder, or if you want to just give to IBSI, you can give to IBSI as well. But you see that QR code right there. Scan that QR code, and you can go to our page, give monthly. I said it before, and I'll say it again. The need for IBSI has increased significantly, or especially this past year. And we've been doing all that we've been able to do, really on shoestring budgets, on passion, and because this is what we feel called to do. But there are things that we cannot do without the funds, and so we're asking for you to become a legacy builder. Set up something, like I said, a monthly subscription to Amazon Prime. Really, it's $15 a month. And that will go, especially everyone who's watching now. If you've been enjoying this, you enjoy our content, you enjoy what we do, what we say, the work that we've been doing, the stuff we'll be doing on the ground. If you enjoy all those things and you appreciate it, we're asking you now to become a legacy builder, to scan that QR code and set up a monthly amount right now. So get out your phones as I'm speaking. It's as simple as taking your camera, putting it over there, boom, something popped up, boom, scan it. And then you can determine the amount that you'd like to give. If you're able to give more than $15, hey, if you can give $50, $100 a month, greatly appreciate it. You don't understand how much that would help IBSI and the work that we do in Black and Jewish and Africa Israel solidarity. So please do that now. And if you're on your phone, thank you, producer, because I was talking about this with a friend earlier. Because if you're on your phone, you can't scan a QR code on your phone if you're on your phone. So if you're on your phone and you can't scan it, you can just go to ibsi.org/donate. Okay. You can just go to ibsi.org and click on the donate button. Okay. That's easy. So on your phone, open up your browser, ibsi.org/donate, and set up your monthly amount. We would greatly appreciate it. And it really helps us to move forward. So thank you all so much. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Tune in next week. I'll be joined by my lovely co-host, and I think we'll also have the great honorable Reverend Kenneth Meshoe with us. We're really excited for that as well. You guys, thank you so much. You have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.